everyone, and welcome to a video brought to you by End of Waste and Jonathan of Zero Waste Guy. We are here to speak about sustainability and product packaging and having more understanding about your waste and what happens when you throw something away. And so just wanted to introduce you guys to Jonathan. Hello, Jonathan.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. Thank you for joining us today. So when did you get into the sustainability world? What is your story?
Well, I used to work for a large retailer in a warehouse. It was 1.86 million square feet. So to put that into perspective, it was about a quarter mile wide by a half a mile
Wow.
long. I used to have a tricycle that I rode around to get through it. And it fulfilled about 75 retail locations. So it's just a massive warehouse, just stockpiled 30, 40 feet tall, high, with lots of consumer goods and lots of disposable items, diapers, water bottles, paper towels, kind of those everyday consumables that we use. And it just felt overwhelming. Like I was in the facilities department in charge of supervising the team of people that keep the warehouse running. So the conveyor belts, the forklifts, the stationary equipment, and I felt like I was optimizing the flow, the supply chain of this like mass consumerism retail situation, and I just didn't really know what the solution was at the time, but I felt like I wasn't necessarily contributing to some sort of like solution to our problems, and it's kind of a vague thing, but like I didn't know what zero waste was, but I felt like I wanted to be helping shape maybe a cleaner world, a more sustainable world, and I felt like working in that environment didn't necessarily align with my values. So as someone with a degree in supply chain management, I thought, well, maybe if I go to the end of the supply chain, which is the disposal, I could then work my way backwards and help businesses and companies make better like purchasing decisions to reduce waste, to prevent the waste from even entering their infrastructure.
Yeah, that's incredible. That's like, I feel like there's, that there's definitely two systems, the consumption and then the reclamation, and it's very interesting when you have to like dive deep into the systems to be like, you can kind of fix this.
I try to, at least. So, I was wondering why End of Waste focuses on glass, or is starting to focus on glass, because plastic pollution obviously is all the rage right now. It's getting all the attention. Glass has always been viewed as a more sustainable alternative to plastic, but at the same time I recognize there's not a lot of glass recycling infrastructure.
Correct.
So
at the End of Waste Foundation, we are going to be subsidizing and getting all waste actually recycled. But we are starting with glass, and towards the end of the year we're moving to aluminum. And with that, we just know that it is a sustainable option. And it's more sustainable than plastic. Plastic is not getting recycled either. It's like both of them are not really getting recycled. So it's just building the infrastructure for glass recycling so that glass that's on the market can get reused as many times as it can and then get recycled if it needs to be, and just find more sustainability with glass packaging. There's a lot of circularity with glass packaging where you can just constantly reuse it. But yes, there is a lack of infrastructure with currently in the United States, and so that's a solution that the End of Waste is trying to provide, is actually funding this system so that we can have a circular economy within the United States.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's a balance, because I talk to a lot of zero waste people, and they're always like, oh, well, glass is better. And I say, well, do you have any glass recycling infrastructure where you live? And they go, no, but I reuse the bottles over and over and over again. And I say, well, it's great for you or me or us to do that, but unless like an entire municipality, a city, an area, a region has recycling for an infrastructure to process the commodity, then like broadly speaking, 999 out of 1,000 of these containers is just going to go right to a landfill.
Correct.
If we don't have the infrastructure. So
yeah, and that's another thing that the end of waste is providing is having a connection between all of the stakeholders in the system. So you started on one side of the system, and maybe you're like, well, maybe I need to focus on the other side of the system. And so that's what we want for product manufacturers to do too, is to choose a glass container instead of a plastic container. This is going to ultimately cost more currently, but in the long run, when we're decoupling it, it's my understanding that that environmental change and sustainability with our economy can work together. So
yeah, most people don't think about just the amount of resources it takes to harvest any raw material. So glass, obviously it's a lot, but plastic comes from crude oil or natural gas, so
right.
We're constantly expending energy to extract energy
right.
to convert into these disposable products, and we really need to get it to be more circular. So obviously I'm a big advocate for glass because it tends to not have any chemicals in it.
Correct.
It can be reused multiple times, dozens of times, and then of course it's way more better on the environment from like a recyclability standpoint.
Right, yeah, endlessly recyclable. It can be broken down into glass cullets so that, you know, a new bottle can be 90% recycled glass, 100% recycled glass, maybe not, I'm not sure. But it's just trying to get as much recycled glass into a new bottle as possible, so that we're not taking virgin materials and just putting it back into the earth for it to sit. You take the virgin materials and then just reuse it.
Yeah. While we're on that line, I'm thinking a lot of people don't realize that the only market for glass to be recycled is really like food grade glass, that the glass that we use for our windows, car windows, shower doors and things does not get recycled. So even in this space, we still have to be really focused on the type of infrastructure we want to shape and develop.
Correct.
So.
Yeah, no, definitely. But then also, in addition to that, I thought you were going to speak about how when you are recycling glass cullets, it doesn't always necessarily have to be into a food and beverage container. It can be recycled into insulation or asphalt. And
there's lots of applications for it. There's really no reason why any material should go into a landfill. Like,
correct.
We just kind of have to rethink our relationship with landfills. And we talked about this earlier, that a lot of people also don't realize that there's parts of the country that don't have glass recycling that end up grinding the glass and using it as landfill cover. So most people don't realize this, but at the end of every single day, we cover landfills because we don't want pests to get in and we don't want smells to get out.
Yeah.
So in California, we currently use yard waste to do that. So we think that we're keeping it separate, and then we're effectively just covering the landfill today, and then putting the trash on top of that cover tomorrow. So a lot of material that we think is being diverted is still being used as what they call beneficial use, which is, people argue about what the definition of beneficial use is, but in California, we're phasing out by the end of this year getting diversion credit for putting yard waste in landfills. I don't know if glass would qualify as an alternative beneficial use. Maybe that's to be seen, but I think it's really interesting that a lot of people think that they're recycling their glass, but really it's being used as landfill cover. And that's kind of where that infrastructure piece really comes into place. Like, most people just kind of, they throw it away, they sort it into their material into a black bin, a blue bin, a green bin, whatever color it is, whatever stream it is, and they just they put it in a recycle bin, they consider it recycled without actually knowing what happens to it. And I think it's really important to know that tempered glass isn't recycled, for example, or styrofoam or those types of like plastics aren't always recycled. People just think, oh, I put it in a recycle bin, it's recycled. Or I put my yard waste in the green bin, it's being composted. Well, it's actually just being ground down and used as landfill cover. So we're still not diverting it from the landfill, even though it maybe is a better use than than just burying it in the landfill. So you can go down the point is, you can go down these rabbit holes where it's like way more complicated than I think most people realize. We want to really simplify it as a 2 or 3 bin system, just trash recycling, organics recycling, and just I put it in the blue bin, so therefore it's getting recycled. Which is not always the case. More often than not, not the case these days.
Well, and part of it is that it's just, as a consumer, we need to have better recycling practices. It's, if you are putting something in there that is soiled and you're soiling the paper with, you know, food waste on your plastic yogurt cup, then it's not going to get recycled. So it kind of starts with us too, making sure that we are sorting our waste and, you know, being more mindful.
It's a balance, because when our modern day waste management system was that you had a trash bin, and then at some point we added a recycle bin. And I mean, I remember growing up that we used to have like 3 different totes. One was for glass, one was for paper, and one was for something else. I don't remember. It was a long time ago.
Aluminum.
And I reached out, I tried to figure out what it was, and I could not figure out historically what it was. But the point is, we used to have to keep our recyclables separate for that very reason, to minimize contamination. But then 25 years ago or so, at least in California, we decided that if we commingle all of our recycling together, the quality of the material will drop, but the participation will go up, because now the consumers don't have to think as much. Because it used to be you had to know, well, is this like paper or is this glass? I mean, it sounds obvious, right? But you had to consciously put it into different containers. And now it's just like, that looks recyclable. I'm just going to put it in the recycle bin, or I'm going to wish cycle. I'm going to throw it in there and just hope that it gets recycled. And you know, when the market for recycled materials was great, no one really cared, because we could accept contamination because we were just bailing up this material, and we were literally, most of the world was shipping it to China to be recycled. And then about 2 years ago, they had the China National Sword policy, where they immediately, overnight, they gave like a month or 2 months notice, saying we are no longer taking 24 different commodities unless you put them at 0.5% contamination level. It used to be 10%, 15% contamination was okay. So you could have, you know, all of one type of object, PET, plastic #1 water bottles, you bailed them all together and you shipped them over, and maybe there was some #2 in there, maybe there was some liquid residue in there, and no one really cared, because they were buying it, it was disappearing, we were shipping it, we were diverting it from our landfills, and we don't really necessarily know what was happening to it, but it was getting recycled for all intents and purposes from our perspective.
Yes, exactly, from our perspective.
And then when China said, we're not taking this unless you go from 10% contamination to 0.5% contamination, all of a sudden we didn't have the infrastructure to keep it that clean. Like, even the cleanest source separated streams, it's hard to get a 0.5% contamination.
That sounds very small.
It's almost impossible. So now all this material that we used to just bail it and ship it overseas and consider it recycled, now it's like right in our faces. We don't have this opportunity anymore to just throw it in a blue bin and it disappears and we never see it again. Now it's like, oh, maybe all these types of plastics weren't recyclable. Oh, maybe this glass wasn't getting, who knows what was happening to this material. So now we have all this material here in our local landfills or our local incinerators, and we have to make a choice. Do we want to continue to just bury it or burn it? Because we can't ship it overseas anymore. That really doesn't hardly exist.
Right.
Or do we want to rethink our relationship with this material? So obviously creating infrastructure to reuse glass would be the best thing to do.
Yes.
And if we can't reuse it, then creating infrastructure to properly recycle it would be the next best option. So.
Yeah, I mean, and that's where the end of waste comes in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't realize that the China ban was that quick, or like the 2-month notice for you to get your container.
It's very abrupt.
Yes, I mean, I feel that it is, because there's a lot of awareness in the public now about the China ban. It used to be like maybe waste news, but now it's like the United States needs to.
Yeah, and now they announced 12 more commodities will be banned by the end of this year, and I think another 12 by the end of next year. Or my timing might be off, but it's interesting because a lot of it was like the byproduct of iron smelting or something. So like these random, very probably pretty toxic, disgusting, no value commodities that we've just been kind of,
Right.
shipping it,
Yeah.
ship it, forget it kind of a thing.